Today in Review This Thing, we're going to review this thing, the Solo Stove Heat Deflector. This is Adrian with Review This Thing, where we always strive to bring you the most honest, thorough, unbiased, unpaid reviews on YouTube. If you've kept up with our channel very long, you have likely seen several videos with this Solo Stove bonfire. We've reviewed a lot of other accessories, including some of the cooking accessories, as well as some just general accessories we found very helpful. If you haven't already seen those videos, then after you watch this video, go ahead and check a few of those out. We've really enjoyed having our Solo Stove bonfire, but one of the main complaints people have had is that it doesn't do a great job of keeping you warm because the heat mainly came out through the top and didn't really disperse out through the sides. So Solo Stove decided they would develop a solution to that problem, hence the heat deflector. We've had ours a few weeks, we've tried it out, done a few tests, so we're ready to tell you what we think. So let's review this thing. We're going to go ahead and go through the facts. The first part is fit. So fit is pretty straightforward. Solo Stove comes in three main sizes. You have a Ranger, you have a bonfire like we have, and then you have the Yukon, which is quite a bit bigger. So if you're looking to get a heat deflector, you just figure out which Solo Stove you have and buy the heat deflector that fits on that. Overall, I'd say this fits really well on our Solo Stove bonfire. You can see there's a little bit of room, there's a little bit of play with the legs to move around, but I don't think it's necessarily unsteady or unsafe to where you're going to accidentally knock it off. And I'd say if you do accidentally knock it off, you probably got bigger problems than this thing coming off, because it probably means you got a little too close to the fire. So because the heat deflector for the bonfire fits the bonfire, and I feel like it fits on there well, it's not really going to go anywhere and it's not hard to put on there, we're going to have to give fit a 5 out of 5. Now, is the Solo Stove Heat Deflector as advertised? There's really only one thing Solo Stove advertises about the heat deflector, that it will redirect the heat and magnify the heat radius of this Solo Stove to make it more comfortable when you're sitting around enjoying your outdoor environment. So here we go. Does this thing actually work? I could just give you some subjective thoughts and tell you, like, whenever we walked around it, it felt a little warmer, but you know how we are. We like to test things fairly scientifically if we can. So we got us a fire going. We put one thermometer on the ground about 6 feet away, and then we took a chair about 2.5 feet or so away from the fire and put a little thermometer in that chair. Now, when we started the fire, but we didn't have the deflector on it, the temperature 6 feet away was about 67 degrees, and the temperature in the chair was right at 75.5 degrees. Then we let the fire burn down a bit and put the deflector on. Over the next few minutes, we tracked the temperature in the chair, and you can see with the deflector on, there was a pretty steady incline in the temperature in the chair that was about 2.5 feet away over the next several minutes. Our max temperature in the chair about 12 minutes after we put the deflector on was right at 85.5 degrees. And the temperature on the ground about 6 feet away and lower actually also increased by about 2 degrees. So then to test it out a little bit more, I just pulled the chair another foot or so back to see how far out that heat dispersal would go. And over the next few minutes with it that far away, you could definitely see the temperature decline again. But then I really wanted to find out how realistic was the distance we had the chairs. Whenever I sat in the chair when it was that far away, I was probably a little bit too far back. I could tell that my knees were getting a little warm, but as far as my torso, there was definitely not a ton of heat coming that way. But again, that's not really a realistic sitting distance. If you scoot it up another 6 inches or so, then you're probably going to notice a great deal more warmth coming to your legs and even up to your torso and kind of toward your face. And I can also attest to the fact that that heat is redirected, because without the deflector, there is a ton of heat that comes straight out of the top. But with the heat deflector on, it's still warm here, but nothing like it is without it. Now, if you're 6, 8, 10 feet away, then no, it's not going to make a huge difference for you. But I would assume if you're trying to use the fire for warmth, you're going to be a little bit closer to it anyway. So all that testing to say the Solo Stove Heat Deflector does what it's advertised to do. So we're going to have to give, as advertised, a 5 out of 5. Now into construction and durability. So first I want to talk about durability really quickly. We've only had the heat deflector a few weeks, so we haven't been able to test it fire after fire, but it is made from 304 stainless steel, so we shouldn't have any trouble with it, and it should last a pretty long time. They do recommend that you always keep it covered, don't let it sit out in the rain and that sort of thing to make sure it lasts. And they say whenever it gets tarnished from the heat, you can always just use Barkeeper's Friend and that'll help clean it right up. So it is made from 304 stainless steel, which makes it pretty lightweight, but I would say it's heavy enough that it's sturdy, stable, going to stay in place, but it's not so heavy that it's a pain in the neck to move around. So the total diameter of the bonfire heat deflector is 25 inches, and it sits right at about 7 inches off of the bonfire itself, which to me is a good height to allow that heat to come out, and it leaves plenty of room if you need to slide some more wood in to keep your fire going while you have this on there. So also in terms of construction, the heat deflector actually comes with the legs not attached. So putting it together is pretty easy. One little trick I definitely want to make sure I tell you about: when you put the legs in, you're going to slide the tab in, then make sure you push it all the way up through the inside section. And that's because the caps have little teeth that need to slide through those openings. So if you don't have that all the way up, they're not going to slide through easily. Once you get those teeth in there, make sure you really push that cap all the way down so it stays in place. I made the mistake of not getting it all the way down. The cap came off, and without the cap on there, it's really easy for the legs to come out too. So it's also compatible with the hubs that come like if you buy the grill or the griddle. So you don't have to use the legs and you can just put it right on top of that hub, which is pretty cool because if you've been cooking and you want to take that cast iron piece off, then you can just throw this right on top of that hub and then sit around and enjoy your fire. One thing I don't super love about construction, it's not a big deal, is that you do have to get your fire going and let it burn down a bit before you put it on there. So you're definitely going to want to make sure you have some of those heat protective gloves whenever you put it on, because it gets pretty hot whenever you're putting your hands over the fire. Overall, I like the design, I like the way it's made, and I feel like it does what it's supposed to do. So because of that, we're going to give construction and durability a 5 out of 5. Now into testimonials and reviews. A vast majority of the reviews that I found were 5 out of 5s, and most people had just great things to say about the deflector. But you know us, we really want to tell you what people didn't like about it, so let's do that. There was one person who said that they really wished the legs folded in so that you didn't have to take it apart if you were going to transport it. I guess that may hinder the ability to use it on the hub, but it would be pretty cool if they folded up and you could transport it that way. Another person said they didn't think it was heavy duty enough and it slid around too much. I showed you how it does have some play in it, but like I said, if it's going to fall off, then you've probably gotten way too close. Another person wanted to warn everybody that the inside of the legs are pretty sharp, and he actually sliced his finger open when he was putting it in. I can attest to the fact that they are fairly sharp. Now, thankfully, I didn't have any problems with it sliding or cutting my hand, but just be aware of that and be careful. And lastly, the other complaint I saw several times was people said it was just way too expensive for what it is. Currently on their website and other websites, you can purchase the heat deflector for right at $175. Now, that's definitely not cheap. But if you're looking at the deflector, then you've already put quite a bit of investment into the Solo Stove and the other accessories that you probably have. Now you can make your own. I think we showed that in our first video about the Solo Stove for, I think it was probably $25 or $30. I think it worked pretty decent. I don't think it worked as well as this because it wasn't as big and it obviously did not look as good. I will also mention that as of the filming of this video, I do have a link and a coupon code that's going to get you an extra $10 off. So make sure you look in the description and in the comments, and I'll put that link as well as that coupon code. So you know what we do, we tell you the score we found. So for testimonials and reviews, the heat deflector gets a 4.8 out of 5. Now finally, should you buy this thing? Basically, if you have a Solo Stove and you want it to be warmer when you're sitting around it, then this is the way to go. There is a noticeable difference in how much heat you're going to feel when you're sitting next to the fire as compared to without it. If you plan primarily to use your Solo Stove in temperatures that aren't really chilly and or mainly for cooking, then you're probably not going to need one of these. But if you really enjoy just sitting around the fire, especially in these cooler temperatures, and you want that fire to provide some warmth as well as just a really cozy environment, then you probably should pick yourself up a Solo Stove Heat Deflector. And don't forget about the link in the coupon that'll help you out a little bit there too. So overall, we're going to have to say, should you buy this thing? 5 out of 5. Hey, thanks for watching our Solo Stove Heat Deflector review video. While you're here, take a few minutes and watch all our other Solo Stove videos, watch some other videos, share them with your friends. If you like them, give them that thumbs up. If you really like it and you haven't, take a second and please subscribe. Also, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, our website, reviewthisthingtv.com, and you can listen to our podcast on most of your favorite podcast platforms.